woman superintendent of Wake County and the first Latina in all North Carolina. Born in Ecuador? Yes. Yes. Name another one. Has anybody heard of the Society of Hispanic Professionals? Founder, Marco Zarate. Marco Zarate founded the Society of Hispanic Professionals in 1999 to serve Latino immigrants in all levels of education. And I'm the vice president of the society now. So what about El Centro para Familias Hispanas? Do you know who is the lady in charge? Nobody? Pilar? You guys never met Pilar? Maybe I need to do a presentation about Latino leaders of North Carolina. Yes, that would be great. We got to. What's the next one? Can I start now? Can I just use my teacher voice? Yes, gracias. All right, well, welcome. How can school equitably engage Latino families? We want to bridge the gap. Notice how we want to bridge the gap. Which is important, right? Does anybody know how many Latino students are in the district? In your district? Nobody? Durham, 40%, okay? 35, Maryland, Burlington, okay? Anybody here from Wake County? Over 30,000 Latino students. Over 30,000 Latino students. That could be a whole district in some areas, right? So today we're here to talk about how can we equitably engage Latino families. And who's putting my slides? Did I go like this? All right, perfect. So let's talk about what does equitable family engagement mean. When you hear the word equity and then you put the family in there, what does that mean? Anybody? What does that mean?
Same opportunities.
Okay, opportunities for families, right? What else? Okay, well represented.
In the way in which they are diverse.
In the way they are diverse within Latino. Thank you for saying that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, so thank you. So what is equitable family engagement? What does that mean to you? Just so you know, in the Latino culture, we could interrupt, and we know what happens in all the different conversations. So you're good.
We intentionally navigate the barriers that are there that keep us from engaging with Latino families.
And he said the magic word, intention. Right? Equity is about intentionality. It's about really providing access. So when you look at how people define equity, it really focuses on meaningful engagement in schools and families that do not characterize or treat specific parents as deficit. And I don't know if you guys attended the workshop about the different managers. We talk about assets. And we need to start taking into the assets of these families. What are they bringing? They're not deficit. I don't believe no one here is deficit, is it? No. But also, this includes practices or approaches or different ways, if you want to call it that way, that it has to reflect what we value. It has to reflect also how you going to tailor the needs to Latino families. And when you think about family, and you look it up, it's interesting, when I was looking up equitable family engagement with Latinos, it always brings you to the thing that it's minority, immigrants, and refugee families. Which, if you know anything about North Carolina, you know that Latinos, we've been here for the past, 70 years? But we're starting to see already second generation of Latino students coming into our school. I've been in North Carolina for 26 years. I moved from Chicago where we had been there, done that. And when I moved here, it was a cultural shock not to see me in the classroom, not to see me in the teaching profession, not to see me in the administration. And then what happened? Now there's Latinos everywhere. Let me ask you a question. Do you have Latinos in the school district? Yes? Not many? Where are you from?
My name is Rangel.
Not many? But we're coming. We're coming. Because I said we're everywhere. All right, next slide. So, we need to change this mindset of deficit approach versus asset approach. And when we think about deficit, it's always that me-based, right? Feminists don't care. You know, I've been doing feminine engagement for the past almost 20 years. And I have not met a family that does not care for their kids. Not even one. Every family that I have encountered takes care of other kids. So we need to change it to all families want what's best for the children. Whether it is to finish high school, whether it is to learn English, whether it is to get a good job, whether it is to go to a university, whether it is to be a lawyer, whatever it is. We have to respect that. Also, educators define students and their families by their weakness. I always hear that. But just like the parents, they don't care, they don't show up. We're going to talk about feminine engagement in a minute. That is critical for Latinos, how we define feminine. So when they don't see us, they assume. What happens when you assume? You know what happens, right? I'm not going to tell you. So again, it's we need to focus as educators. We need to focus on the strength that we bring. It's also tapping into the funds of knowledge. You guys remember that funds of knowledge? What is the community bringing? What are they bringing? Because they're not deficit. And again, we have to stop, educators need to stop blaming families for students' failings. We need to stop that. Oh, they're not educated, so they don't care, they don't know any better. Wait a minute. You know, we need to start focusing on learning about families and community funds of knowledge. What are they bringing? You know, interesting story, you know, funds of knowledge came about in Los Angeles about a school that was doing so badly academically. So instead of getting that deficit mindset, they switched it to assets. What are they bringing? Maybe we need to go into the community and learn what these families are all about. Interesting, this community happened to be very big on construction. So they said, ooh, how can we tap into what they already know and make it relevant in the curriculum so they could understand and learn? And they did. When you are doing construction, you have to know math, right? You also learn so much about the structure. So they started to teach students that way. And it made sense because they could relate. It's relevant, right? So I want you to tell me about your Latino families. Who are your families? What do you know about your Latino families? You know, what Latino engagement and equity do you see with your Latino families? And what are some questions that you have about your Latino families? So I want you to turn to someone and briefly just talk about, pick one of those questions. If you were in my old day training, we will go over each one, but we don't have time. So turn your partner. Who are you Latino? Maybe you too. Okay, you could wrap it up. Okay. Let's see. Who wants to share? Anybody? What do you know about your Latino families? Any facts? Go ahead. Culture is essential and we stick together. Very true. Especially we are immigrants. Very okay. Multifaceted. That's right, because then you stereotype. Thank you. And we need to differentiate, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we differentiate because we don't want to put all Latinos in one pot, right? Because we're very diverse. We come from 21 Latino countries and we are very different. But there are a few things that bring us together. We'll talk about that in a minute. What else? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're proud. They bring you food. Ooh, very delicious food. Very good. One more over here. Mm-hmm. Emotional gap. And we do. It doesn't take a lot for you to understand what's happening. If you look at the news, you could find out there's a lot of minors coming unaccompanied to this country, and they're going through all those social, emotional dramas coming here. So it's about understanding that your first generation, second generation immigrants are very different. And again, right now, you know that there's a lot of folks from Venezuela coming here. So you just have to look at turn on the TV and find out what happened. At one time, it was a lot of folks coming from Colombia. It was like early '90s, early. So again, now it's the folks from Venezuela. So again, these are some questions just to kind of get us going. Next. Just a little differences of who we are. Families, we are very different. Latinos are very, very different. Some of us are very recent immigrants. Some of us are descended of Latinos for third, fourth generation. And again, we come from a very range of Latino countries, 21 Latino countries. And also, once we are in the U.S., we're very different. Social economic status, language of being bilingualism. Think about that. And so we are very different as far as how long have you been here, and some key differences. There's a differences between Mexican national versus Mexican Americans. Mexican nationals are very still like first generation and second generation, very proud of their background, costumes, language, everything. And then as you become more Mexican nationals, Americans, you are becoming more Americanized. Every day our students come to school, they are adopting the mainstream culture. They are becoming what? More Americans. So we need to teach our students that there's nothing wrong with your culture. There's nothing wrong with your beliefs and customs and everything. I always told my students when I used to teach, I said, we need to learn how to play the game. And this is how we play the game in the mainstream culture. When I talk to you, you look at me. I said, in the mainstream culture, they like their space. In our culture, we like proximity. In the mainstream culture, you wait your turn to talk. In our culture, we can carry more than one conversation. We could be loud, and we can point with fingers, but in this culture, we just have to turn it down a little bit and wait and nod, okay? And don't forget the eye contact. And again, it's just differentiate. It's like playing a game. If you don't know the rules, you're gonna get penalized. And many times we get penalized because they don't understand. If we interrupt in the class, it's a cultural thing. Or we point with the finger, sometimes we get penalized. So we need to teach our students that in this mainstream culture, this is how we operate. But never dismissing what they bring. So it's tapping into those fountains of knowledge. Puerto Ricans are part of the U.S., right? Puerto Rico is not in Mexico. Cubans started coming here in the 1958, 1960s, in South America. We have the shortest migration. But again, you have to differentiate first, second, and third generation. Because the first generation is still very close to their tradition, beliefs. Second generation, they're becoming what? As you move in the spectrum of generations, you are becoming more and more acculturated. That's why if you go to Los Angeles, California, or Texas, or New Mexico, you're going to see people that look like you last name, they don't speak the worst at all. Okay, so differences is very good. We come from all these different countries. We also put Spain. But honestly, how many Spanish students do you have? They're predominant from where? Central America and Mexico. Yes or no? And now we're starting to see, of course, folks from Venezuela, maybe Colombia, Argentina. We see a little bit here and there, right? We're starting to see more folks from Venezuela. And again, it varies. And of course, from the Caribbean, we have a lot of Dominicans too. We have Puerto Ricans. So we are very diverse. We come from all those different countries. It's very fun. So did you know that there are 60.6 million Hispanic Latinos in the U.S. as of July 1st, 2019, and growing? We are 18.5% of the nation's total population. So we are growing, and there are 12 states with more than 1 million Latinos. Is North Carolina here? Do you see it? Okay. That's what I'm saying. We're coming to your town soon. When you look at this projected race ethnicity breakdown, what you're going to see is that the white population is coming down. And the Latino is going up, right? You see that? So this is just by 2060. Look at that. It's interesting because people don't understand the impact of Latinos, but we have to start thinking about Latinos and the impact that we're going to have in the U.S. and the impact that we're going to have in North Carolina. And all those politicians need to cater to us so that we can vote, right? And we can make a difference. So the next one. So let's talk about Latinos in North Carolina. There's more than 1 million, right, in 2019. They say that there is Hispanic Latinos comprise 1 in 10 NC residents. 17.9% of Latinos are in public schools. I just found out this morning there are 280,000 plus Latino students in NC public schools. 40% are first-time full-time students in NC Community College. And I'm hoping that they will graduate with a degree so they can help us shape the landscape of professionals in North Carolina. 59% of Latinos are U.S. born in North Carolina. So not every child that comes into your school is undocumented. If anything, they are documented. They might have hybrid families, which means that the families might be undocumented, but there are U.S. citizens. If you want to know where we are, there are 4 big counties where we are: Forsyth, Guilford, Alamance, Orange, Durham, Wake, and Mecklenburg. So, is anybody from those counties? A surprise, right? Going? And we also contribute to the economy. I really hate when say, oh, Latinos, they're such a burden on the economy. No, we're not. Jim Johnson does studies. He's done a few. He's a professor, actually, he's a veteran UNC Chapel Hill professor. And he also does a good presentation by the Browning of the Brown. Oh, something like that. But anyway, what's it called? Yes. And he does that, and he says that we contribute to the economy, 25 billion to the economic impact. So that's according to Anti-Banker Association. But Jim Johnson really goes into depth. If you really want to see how we contribute, tell you. But he does say that you contribute with construction, agriculture, green processing, trucking, janitorial maid services. And with the increase of professionals, we're starting to see a lot of Latinos coming within the U.S. to North Carolina who are highly educated and they're professionals, as well as, like I said, there's a lot of folks from Venezuela coming here who are highly qualified. You know, they're lawyers, professionals, dentists, you name them. So they're here. And of course, when you look at all the data, obviously the demographics is going to tell you something. How does the school look? How does the neighborhood is going to look? How is your community going to get impacted? You want to impact every segment: education, business, everything, housing. So again, we have to consider the demographics. And then, of course, when we talk about engaging families, we have to make sure that we know, and you have to know your Latino demographics. You need to know are they foreign born, are they immigrants, are they first or second generation, so that then you could differentiate, you will not stereotype. First generation or new immigrants, first generation, there's a big difference. New immigrants, they're still dealing with understanding how to navigate all the different systems. It's about surviving. The first generation has been here already. They understand. Maybe, like me, I consider myself first generation. I went to school. I graduated. I have a DR in front of my name. So now my son is second generation. I'm hoping that he will take it even further. So again, who are your families? Because you're going to have a mixture. In your school districts, you're going to have a mixture of first, second, third, and fourth generation. And we need to be very careful not to stereotype. Just because a student comes to your school with the last name Rangel does not mean that they need ESL classes. Or if a student named Kenneth Rangel is in that AIG class, it's because he deserves it. Not because we made a mistake and he was, I don't know how we got him there. His last name is Rangel, and he deserves to be there. So again, get to know your families. And the reason why we migrate to the U.S. is because there's food factors, higher living standards. We know that there's higher living standards here, employment, education opportunities, but there's a lot of push factors that are pushing us out of our country. Shortage of job, unemployment, low wages. Political conflict is probably one of the biggest. And also persistent poverty and hunger. Mexico, Central America are third world countries. I'd rather be poor in this country than back home. Seriously. So again, violation of human rights, corruption, high crime, that's what's happening right now in many parts of Central America and Mexico. The cartels are taking over, you know, the drug lords. So again, this is called the network theory, and also the network theory is, if you notice, I think it was you that you said you had all your students there from the same place, right? Sometimes we tend to go where we know folks from the same, like if they were from the same state. Like I know there's a lot of folks here from Guanajuato. A lot of parents, Latino parents from Guanajuato. And let me tell you, I have nothing to do with that because I'm from Guanajuato. I didn't ask them to come here. But it's kind of nice to see a lot of folks from Guanajuato, and they're mostly from the same rural area, which is very interesting. Now, Nancy Laws came out with this theory. This is for immigrants. To really understand the immigrants, you have to understand there are cultural survivors that are just trying to figure it out. How am I going to make these ends? How am I going to bring food to the table? And then we criticize them because they're not in the school. Well, hello, they have other priorities. So we need to find out who are our families and then judge. If you understand this, is that they're surviving. And think about it, there are all these systems that we need to understand. And then within the systems are all these different systems. Here's education. Education, system. Special ed, system. AIG, system, right? Every magnet schools, system. Early college, system. We have to know all the policies of how do we get in there. How do we navigate all the different systems? And even English-speaking parents struggle. Imagine folks that English is not their first language. Or that they don't understand this culture. Go back to my culture, I'm not done yet. And then they become cultural learners. They become cultural learners when we provide them with come, we provide daycare, we're going to feed you, we're going to have interpreters, we're going to teach you what you need to know in your own language. And then they become cultural learners, and hopefully then they move on to the next level, which is cultural connectors. They're able to connect and make sense of what's happening, and they can connect other parents to come. And then we really want them to become cultural leaders, and there's where they can go out there and teach others about how to navigate the systems. They're sharing resources, and they're sharing expertise. Okay, next one. So again, they're not deficit. I think when we are dealing with families, we need to understand that they might be, why is education important? Because back home, back home, the way we define family engagement is very different. So, for example, I do family and community engagement. My job is I am the director of family and community engagement in Wake County Public Schools. My job is to coach students about how can they engage their diverse families. But I also teach a course, Foundations of Family 101. And when I ask my students to define family engagement, it is so interesting to see everybody's perspective and how they define it. So think about it. If we cannot collectively agree on what family engagement is, what about parents? Especially if you have a very diverse population that might come from China, from India, right? From Africa, from the Congo. And if they're Latinos and they come from the rural area, they want to see how they define family engagement very different. Latinos see their role as, next one, as providing home, health, and nutrition, instilling values such as respect for elders, teachers, adults, and general good behavior. Pórtense bien, bien educados. If you translate the word bien educados, is well educated. So for us, for Latino special immigrants, we want our kids to become bien educados, to have respect. If I would ask you, are you well educated, what would you say? Would you start saying, I have a bachelor's degree, I have this, I have that? Because you are thinking about degrees in your head, right? Whereas Latinos are thinking about behavior. Behavior. So we're all about making sure that our kids are well respected, well behaved. Right? And so when we don't have time, but we could get into, when I teach this the whole day, I get into how the norms and behaviors that we bring affect academic achievement. Because people don't understand when our parents come, and we, especially immigrants, come to a parent-teacher conference, the first thing they're going to ask you is my child behaving? Right? Why? Because we believe that if they're not behaving, which means they're not being respectful, paying attention, therefore they're not learning. And I have teachers telling me, why do they ask that? Don't you want to know if you're doing good academically? And I'm like, seriously? So again, it's a cultural thing. But once they understand it's different, so again, it's how you define family engagement. This is what research says about what Latino families want you to know. And this is what they want. They want to learn ways to participate in the child's education. They want better communication between teachers and parents. They want workshops that would help them understand the children's schoolwork, academics, and how can they support them at home. They want to schedule conferences often and make personal invitations by phone. They want you to call them. They want for teachers to be more friendly and accessible. And when I did my research, and when I did my dissertation, I did it on how to engage Latino immigrant families. It's funny because you keep hearing it constantly from the interviews. So there it is. Next page. But we also have to know what are the challenges, and it could be so many different challenges. Here are just some examples. And in the presentation, there is 5 questions that I give you. I call them focus questions. You can call them whatever you want. If you really want to know what are the barriers, how family engagement, how Latino families define family engagement. If you want to know how they want to be getting communication. If you want to know how can you support them. If you want to hear from them, how can we support you? I think I gave you some questions there that you could bring these Latino parents in a focus group. You could ask them, and I'm gonna guarantee you they're gonna tell you what are the challenges in some of these, but they're gonna tell you how you can support them. And if you pay attention, they're gonna tell you the strategies that you are looking for. Sometimes we tend to do for them because we think we know better, but we need to stop and ask them what is it that you need. Mind you, they might not understand all the terminology, but if we break it down for them, they're going to say, yeah, I need that. Exactly. I couldn't call it. I don't know. You know, you guys use all those beautiful terms. So again, what are the challenges? Right now, everybody's going through the mental health issues, right? And we have to respect, too, that some of these parents have more than one or two employments. They work more than one job. And then we penalize them because they're not in attendance. Well, have you ever thought about you going to that? Instead of them coming to you? Going to the community, don't be afraid. If they live in the subdivision, see if you could use their, sometimes they have the community center. If not, do it in the parking lot. We go and do stuff at the parking lot, and parents feel very, very, they're very appreciative, and right away they bring the tamales, they bring the food. You know, they do. So again, this is some of the things. Discrimination is a biggie. With all this, discrimination and technology are some of the biggest challenges that they face. They get discriminated, and of course, technology. Not everybody has a strong protect for technology. How long do I have until? Oh, I got time then. Okay. So now, these are the questions. Actually 6 questions, but these 6 questions, you know, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and every time schools call me and say, well, we don't know what to do. How do we engage them? And I said, invite your parents. You could do it for grade level. You could mix them. You know, you could do a random sample. Get your families, call interpreters, have them help you, facilitate that. If you want to, I can facilitate it for you, and listen to them. And they're going to give you the whole plan that you want for your school improvement plan. I said, but you need to listen. And sure enough, once we do that, they're so thankful. They come out with the whole plan. They know what the challenges are. They know how to overcome those challenges. And if not, they look for solutions. So how do we engage them? We need to learn what countries are they coming from. Do not assume that every Latino that walks into your school is Mexican. They're not. And trust me, there's nothing wrong with being Mexican because I am very proud of being Mexican American. And I can tell you right now, we gave you chocolate. So every time you eat chocolate, you better thank a Mexican. Because we gave it to everybody. And here's another one that I always tell people. When you are watching TV, you watch those beautiful colors, like right now the colors. We did not invent the TV, but we gave it color. And I always tell the students this because they love the story. I tell when I was a teacher, I used to tell the kids, listen, when you go to Mexico, to Latino countries, they like those vivid colors. Because, you know, I love vivid colors. I have to tone it down a little bit for my comfort. But I love pink and yellow, and I love those fluorescent colors. In fact, you go to Mexico, Latino countries, the houses are painted that way. Yes. Right? So I told them, see those colors? Those beautiful colors? Yeah, that's because we love colors. Oh, yeah, that's why my grandma has the house that color. That's right. So, if you are watching TV next time, see those beautiful colors? Think I'm Mexican. And I could go on and tell you more examples, but get to know who they are, what countries are they from. And then integrate Latino culture traditions into the watch. Instructional. It's called cultural responsive pedagogy. Right? Make sure that if you're teaching something that you could at least relate it to one of the characters that you're reading to those Latino kids. Or if not from Latino countries, but other countries. Again, make sure that the Latinos know how to get into the building. Especially in middle school, in high school. Would they have to go see the student services, which is upstairs, all the way at the end of the hallway? Or they want to go see the social worker and sit in the building? You know, put signs, which way, so they'll know how to get into it. Display the maps and flags of the students. In Latino countries, that is so beautiful when you walk into a school and you see a map of where your kids are coming from. First of all, it feels nice to walk into a place where you know that you are valuing different cultures, different perspectives. And then two, schedule regular activities events based on the Latino parents' interests. Survey them, ask them, what do you need? What time works best for you? Sometimes we do events in the morning and we expect them to come. They're not going to come, they're going to work. But have you thought about maybe doing something at 6:30 and giving them dinner? Or maybe something on Saturday that might work? Again, find out what works best. Also provide childcare and food if you could. Create a video. Now it's so easy with a YouTube. Create a YouTube and everybody has a smartphone. QR codes work really well with our Latino parents. Everybody has a smartphone. Find out about talking points. How many of you guys know what talking points is? One person? What's talking points?
It's an app that lets you communicate. You write in English and then it translates to Spanish.
I believe it's over 200 different languages.
What is it called?
Talking points. Our district, Wayne County, adopted it, and it makes communication so easy. You can communicate with your parents in any language, so communication is not a gap anymore. So again, what can we do? Also, YouTube. A lot of folks are doing WhatsApp groups. It doesn't matter if you come from Africa or a Latino country, everybody uses the WhatsApp. Everybody has a WhatsApp group. I moved into a neighborhood about 2 years ago. It's predominant folks from India, and they have a WhatsApp group. And they have one for the women and one for the men, because that's how they do it culturally, right? So my husband's in the men and I'm in the women's. And again, you communicate through WhatsApp. You can make a video, a very quick video, and just send them the link, and they can pop it and they can see it. That's how we communicate with many parents. Post information in Spanish, discuss with the Latino parents the value of strong native language skills and being bilingual. A lot of teachers still believe that if you reach your child in Spanish, that they're not going to learn English. And we know the research says, what? Learn how to read in your own native language. It's not going to affect anything. If anything, it's helping the child to what? Say that? That's right, they're transferring from one to another. Here's a good question. Any Latinos in the house, I'm going to ask you this question, okay? Listen. English speaking folks, listen. Latinos in the house, in what language do you dream?
Yeah.
We dream in both languages.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know which language you're using.
Exactly, because automatically your brain does it. And sometimes you don't even know because it's so ingrained in you. So anyway, I'll let you know. Include bilingual books in the library if you can. Next one, please. We need kids, we need parents to be able to read to them. How many of you guys have family academy workshops or parent workshops in your building, in your school district? Parents need to understand how to teach literacy. Right now is the science of reading. They need to understand that. How do you do math? How do you do whatever you're teaching them? They want to learn that. So workshops are critical. If you need parent workshops, I have a whole library of them in English, in Spanish. From how to support your child with literacy, with how to encourage your kid to do well in school, to different social factors, to bullying, you name it. If you need it, if you need something like that, email me and I'll be happy to share the presentation with you. You can tweak it, you can make it your own, you can have it. Again, if you're gonna send materials, make sure there is in bilingual. Do not assume that just because you have a last name Rangel, that I'm gonna read the Spanish information that you send me. Because I'm gonna prefer English. Bilingual, one in Spanish, one in English. Don't assume, just send them both. If you are bringing them together and you're doing Spanish workshops and English workshops, you don't choose for them. You let them pick and choose where they want to go. You tell them, we have the Spanish sessions for Spanish speakers, and we have English presentation here for anybody that wants to go. And then they just pick and go. Again, make sure that you teach them the expectations, the policies and rules, because those are really critical, especially the policies about attendance. Those are really crucial. In middle school and high school, they need to know what's going to get them suspended long term, such as if you bring a what? A weapon. You're going to get suspended for a long time. For a long, long time. Ask their parents how they want to receive communication. They want phone, email, text messages. You know, you're going to use talking points, and they love talking points. So make sure that they know how to download the application. Power Schools. How many of you parents know how to download Power School or have access to Power School? Parents need help completing the paperwork, and when they're assigned the access code, how do they go about downloading the app, getting in there, and then when they have it on their phone, right? Then what? What do I do? How do I link more than one child into my account? They need those, and you need to walk them step by step. You have to do centers with them so they could understand all the process. And again, next one. Look for ways that families can participate and volunteer. You know, one of the things right now, one of the biggest challenge, and it's not in there, and I should have put it in there, is parents having access to being volunteers. It is one of the barriers that we see a lot because they don't have, especially for undocumented parents, they don't have a social security. But here's a catch. If they have a passport, they could use the passport as an ID. So when they're supposed to put the social security number, they enter the password's number. The folks who run background checks will pick it up and know that's a passport. Just an FYI. Okay? Also, they can volunteer. So once they do that, they can volunteer in everything. They can help out in the cafeteria. They could be in the media center helping with the books. They could assist in the classroom. They could do anything that does not require content. Some of them, they might not be able to read or write. But they could be in the bathroom. In middle school and high school, we need a lot of supervision in the bathrooms. It seems like everything's happening in the bathrooms. And you have parents that want to help. And they would not be, mind being in the bathroom, just making sure the traffic goes by. So again, find also parent skills and hobbies and find ways to bring them in. Construction work. If they're doing landscaping, bring them to the school. They can help out. A lot of teachers do a garden outside. You want your school to be nice. Bring in those parents. Find out what they do. And bring them in so they can share their experiences. And then two, there's some considerations to keep in mind as you work with Latino immigrant parents and all parents. You need to make sure that you understand their level of education. Here's a quick and easy way for you to find out their level of education. Look at the Q folders. Look at how they sign their names. Do they use upper and lower letters mixed together? When they sign, are they doing it with cursive? If not, I stay within the line. And here's the simple thing is ask your students. And do not assume because they're coming from a Latino country that Spanish is their first language. Why do I say that? Indigenous languages. There's many. And what's your country? So in Ecuador, there are over 14 different indigenous languages. Who's from Mexico here? How many indigenous languages you know?
More than five.
There's more than 5. Yeah, I'll give you a little hint. They have translated from indigenous language, right? From Spanish into the indigenous language, they have translated in 50 different indigenous languages in Mexico, and there's more. So again, don't assume because they're from Mexico that the Spanish might be, Spanish might be the second language. Respect authority, there is a big difference between the male and the female. The male is considered to be the head of the household. He's the provider. And so be careful when you have the male in there. And we're always very respectful. We like to shake hands, be formal in interactions. So that's how we like to be. We want you to call us as usted. How many of you guys took Spanish in high school? Don't call us tú. When you meet your parents, usted. You know what I meant by that, right? There's 2 ways of saying you in Spanish, formal and informal. So when you meet Latino parents, it's always formal, usted. Okay? Communicating parents in school, we talked about that. We talked about how many of you guys strive to spell and pronounce names correctly? So if I go into your class and my name is Angela, you're going to call me Angela, you're going to call me Angel. If my name is Jesus, are you going to call me Jesus or Jesus? Exactly. Avoid asking someone if they speak Mexican or Puerto Rican. Spanish is Spanish. But you know what? I don't blame you. You know why? Here it goes. Chinese people speak what? Korean people speak what? French people speak what? Italian people speak what? So Latino people speak what? Spanish. Thank you. Provide qualified interpreters. This is critical. Make sure that interpreters are qualified. Never, ever, ever use the student to interpret for you. Never. Because what you're doing, you're taking the power away from that parent, giving it to that child to make decisions for that parent. And parents don't understand it. And I try to tell them, when your child is absent because you're taking that child with you to go and help you to interpret, you're taking away the power and giving it to him or her. Again, provide qualified. So that's crucial. And if you know Spanish words, use them. We're not going to criticize you. You're just trying to break the ice. You're trying to, create community. You can say hola, ¿cómo está usted? Now, you have to be careful because we're going to think you speak Spanish, which no one and you say bonita. And we're like, oh, okay. It's true. And I think that the most thing is that you need to create those relationships, right? And you have to feel comfortable, so we trust you. And obviously, whenever include the extended family, we're all about the extended family. Whether you are first or second or third generation, we're all about the family, the extended family. But obviously, as you become more acculturated, of course, then it becomes the nuclear versus the extended family. And then some strategies for you to have for students. These are for students. How many of you guys have ever used the SIA model? Anybody know what the SIA model is? It's basically good teaching strategies where you are having an objective that covers academic language, right? And what's the other one? Language and? Yeah. And it's just, how do you make, again, the lessons more relevant? So one of the things that ESL students, immigrant kids are lacking is basically the academic vocabulary. They need to learn that. We learn better in cooperative learning, but you have to structure it correctly because if you don't structure it, it's going to be the worst thing in your life. Because the kids are going to come together, mind you, all day long, all they hear is really, that's what English sounds to them. All of a sudden, you put them all together, and what are we going to do? We're going to speak Spanish. Even among English-speaking Latinos, if we know they speak Spanish, we're going to go and we're going to code switch. And we're going to go for Spanish. It just happens. Same thing with students. You have to structure it when you tell them, I want you guys to use your language to teach each other. And this is what I want you guys to do. And assign somebody, especially the one that's more fluent. And you, Maria, I want you to take notes, and you are the one that needs to put this together, using everybody's voices. So again, it's how you structure it. Cultural responsive teaching strategy is very good. You have to incorporate the concept knowledge, community issues. You have to embrace the diversity of your students. You have to learn where they're coming from. Make sure that what you're teaching is relevant. If you are, one of the things about cultural responsive and relevant teaching is that relevant came about Gloria Billington, right, in 1990. And she came out with some strategies when she went to observe teachers that were just so effective teaching Black students. And she wanted to know what are they doing that is working. And she came out with 3 things. They're making curriculum relevant. They are tapping into the funds of knowledge, and they are embracing the kid's identity. And they're also using critical consciousness, which means everything that they're teaching there has to do with real world problems, but societal problems within the community. So it made it more relevant for them. And then in 2000, Geneva Gay came out with teaching responsiveness, right? Strategies. And again, it's not a rocket science. It's very easy. And then technology, right now, technology, there's a lot of cool programs that are very academically oriented to teach students math and reading. I always tell teachers, don't give parents more than 3 online resources. Give them 2 that they could do at a time, and make sure that they understand where to go. And if you have to, download it in their phone so they'll know. Everybody has a smartphone nowadays. And then in the same way, you are empowering those parents that now I can help my child to do math and reading, even though I don't know how to do that. But I know that this application, because Ms. Smith told me so, you're going to do it for half an hour. And then you're going to do this other one. So again, technology. And explore the value of your students. And I think I should be done by now, right? The last one. Those are strategies, you have them in your folder. The last one. The last one. All right. Who wants to read this quote for me, really loud? Go ahead. Listen to that. Latinos are the nation's fastest growing community, and addressing their educational needs is vital to the national interest. What about the bottom? Who wants to read the bottom for me? Go ahead.
By the year 2025, the United States will have the 2nd largest Latino population in the world.
What year?
2025.
What year is it?
2023.
I dropped the mic. Thank you. The last night? That's my contact info?
Is there a way to get the slides in between with a variety of strategies?
Yes.
They are not in here.
You have them?
They're in there.
They're on the website.
On the website.
Yes.
Okay.
All the strategies, your strategies are here.
Yes.
I took them out and put them in here for you. Okay, adios. If you want my contact info, I have parcel in here. Sí, por favor.
I thought I worked in the office. No, you would not.
But it's all right.
Thank you.
Maybe CIE, Center for International Enrollment, maybe?
Maybe.
Maybe he's a class teacher or something?
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Te voy a mandar un correo para las diapositivas.
Definitely, definitely.
Talking
Yes.
is the name of that. It's an app. Talking. Okay, I want to make sure I heard it.
What district are you in?
I'm in Newton Conover School, so that's in Hickory, Conover.
If you have a lot of Latinos, even all the parents, that application.
I never heard of it. I'm surprised.
Oh my God, it makes, I mean, you could right away communicate with the parent in different languages, not necessarily.
And it's an app I can download on my phone.
It's an app, but I don't know if, I think you might, I don't know if they give you access, but limited. The idea is for the district to purchase it.
Oh, okay.
But you can
Got
check it out.
I will. Okay.
What's next? You guys staying here for the next one?
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola, Roberto.
Aquí vamos a llevar una entrevista.
¿De dónde estás tú?
Johnson County.
Oye, conmigo, ¿sabes que todas son miembros de la Asociación de Profesores?
Organizaciones.
Nosotros nos enfocamos en ayudar a inmigrantes a estudiar.
Qué bueno, sí, porque pues yo igual les digo a los vecinos, pónganse pilas, porque nosotros tenemos que hacer mucho movimiento aquí.
Claro que sí, muy bien,
Bien,
gracias.
pues muchas gracias.
Ándale.
But I teach science and engineering. And I've been trying to work with a company, he's a corporation, he and I have a hard to get it. Because I don't speak the language. So if I can get some mentorship, on how I can help these families get their children all these things. That's where I'm headed. Okay.
Contact me.
Thank you.
Welcome.